Welcome to All Electric Conversations, where we talk with pioneers in traveling with electric vehicles. We're your hosts, Katie and Steve Krivolovic of the All Electric family. From road trips and towing to daily life, we'll hear stories of wanderlust and progress to inspire your own adventures with All Electric Conversations.
Welcome back to another All Electric Conversations.
Yeah, I'm Katie and this is Steve, and we are from the All Electric family, and we just want to sit down and talk to you guys about some stuff going on in the electric vehicle world.
Yeah, a lot of it's exciting, and we just wanted to get on here and talk about it, give you our thoughts on it, and hopefully some good information.
The first thing we wanted to talk about today was that Tesla opened their Supercharger network. That happened a lot faster than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, and differently than I anticipated,
Yeah.
to be honest. And so currently I just got on there and there was 10 locations opened up, and they use a system called the Magic Dock that is holding not only the Tesla charger, the North American Standard is what they call it, and then also the CCS within it.
Yeah.
And based upon how you activate it on your app, it's going to allow you to pull the CCS part of the adapter out of it. It's really cool. Like, the design is awesome, to be honest.
Yeah, and the fact that they were able to roll it out as quickly as they were once they said, okay, like this is going to happen, it just goes to show, I think, how quickly Tesla can get things done and the efficiency in which they do things. And, you know, I've been jealous watching all the people go test it out that live close enough to go test one. But we live in the Midwest and it'll probably be a little while. But I mean, what are your opinions on how you think it's going from things that you've seen online? And
yeah, so there's a lot of different things to it. So I want to talk about the membership part of it. And so there is a membership. I believe it's, I can't remember, $12.99 or $13.99 a month. And based upon that, your typical rate versus your discounted rate, you need to use 135 kilowatt hours. So that's really not that bad. That's going to be easily one road trip that is, 200 miles out and 200 miles back, or maybe more than that. But anyways, I don't know yet if you can shut that on and off. I'd imagine you can, kind of like Electrify America. That's the other side of it. It is a little bit more expensive than Electrify America, but honestly, it's not even a 10% increase. It's probably right close at a 10% increase.
So it is more expensive, and isn't it also slower than what you would get in an Electrify America station?
That's a great question, and depending upon the vehicle.
Okay.
It isn't necessarily slower. If we took our Rivian to some of these spots that are open, it wouldn't be that much slower. It may be a little bit slower, but it's not going to be that much slower. You take a Bolt there, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
Is somewhere else, or even, I guess I don't know the answer to that, but there are some vehicles that will charge slower. There are the Lucid Air. It can only go to 50 kilowatts of charging on them, and that has to do something with the actual car. It's not the supercharger. Since it runs on an 800 volt system,
I was going to say,
it needs a booster in there. And so like I believe the Porsche Taycan and stuff like that are fine because they use the rear motor to boost its voltage to get there. And I have not seen the Hummer EV.
That was my question. It was going to be, what about the Hummer?
Yeah, because my understanding is it doesn't have a booster, so it just depends how they're going to handle that on the front side. Is GM ready for that? Which I don't have a whole lot of faith, me personally, but because theirs is their 400-volt system, but when they're charging it, it runs the battery in series. It's like putting two batteries together to get to that 800
Oh.
volt. It's like 700 volt, but don't need to be that technical.
So essentially, it's like, so then when it plugs into a Tesla Supercharger, and I know we don't know this about the GM vehicles currently,
Hmm.
but essentially it's just charging one of the batteries at a time then? Is that why it slows
No,
it down?
no, it'll. Well, for
It's
the
just the
GM, we don't
booster thing.
know. We
Yeah.
don't know how it's going to be. It'll be the whole battery, but it would just be at the 400 volt, so it'd be at a slower charge. It couldn't get to that 350.
Well, hopefully that's not the case for the GM since we are on the list and have a VIN number for a Hummer,
Yeah.
but we'll see how quickly that comes. Um,
So that's very interesting to me.
yeah.
And just to explain that a little bit more, so like it's the whole battery chopped in half, and then it's put together. So it's like 400 volt. Instead of having one 400 volt battery, they actually split it, and then they put it together. And so 400 plus 400 is 800 when they wire it a specific way. And it's not specifically 800. Sorry I'm being so technical, but it's hard not to be.
Yes, this is what I deal with on a daily basis. He explains all these technical things to me, and then I just break it down. I get my understanding and I break it down into like my
Yeah.
normal terms, and that's what I try to bring to you guys on the channel. Is
That's why you like seeing her more than
yeah,
me,
breaking it down
which is good.
so I can put it
She's
in our terms.
prettier and better and all sorts of stuff. So
Well, thank you, honey. I appreciate it. You've definitely got the brains of the outfit, though.
well,
But
the technical brains.
yes, the
That's
technical brains. Okay, so I want to talk about some of the things that I've seen because, like, I think overall, it is working pretty well. Like, seeing people posting about it, they're plugging in. I have seen a couple people that have had issues, but not slews of people that are having issues.
Do you remember what those were?
I want to say one was a bolt. And then I do not remember what the other one was.
I
But
just
know
want to
it's been
buy a
two.
bolt when they get one and go park it there. Because it's just a trigger warning for everybody.
Yeah. Well,
everybody online, like.
That's what I want to talk about is like the things, I mean, it's going well. And I think that the people that are going to the actual chargers and charging are having a good experience, a pleasant experience with the people that are there. But there is definitely some hate on the Tesla Superchargers opening online. Like people that, I mean, I saw somebody say, if I see your car there, I'm going to go slash all four tires. Like, I mean, and this person was like serious because they went on with the conversation for a while. And it's like, I mean, so I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
How we think that's all going to go as they open up more and more and more people have to experience it. So I kind of said what we've seen, some of the things online, and people just mad about it, like just angry about it online. Like, you're gonna take up 2 stalls. You better never come to my supercharger. Like things like that.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts? How is this gonna progress? How are we gonna?
I think it's gonna make for some great YouTube videos.
Somebody's gonna go viral.
In the beginning. So that's my thought, is that people are gonna be angry. They're gonna be upset that Tesla opened this up. That,
They are.
All these things, and I could talk about all the positives of it, and I hope we get to that.
Yeah, I think we should.
But yeah, people are just gonna have to calm down.
Yeah.
Like this is more of an overall like helping the adoption of electric vehicles, and so there's some other things too that are obviously going to benefit Tesla. Like they're setting themselves up for the future. So.
Yeah.
But yes, there is going to be some hiccups. There's going to be some negative stuff in the beginning because when you pull in, you're actually for a Tesla vehicle versus, let's use our Rivian for instance, since that's all we have now. you are taking up the charger that typically you're taking the parking space that's, to the driver's side of a Tesla vehicle, which the port opens up to. You're taking the charger that's actually
intended for the other.
Yeah, intended for that. Hopefully that made sense.
So let me put it into terms. So when you pull in, because of where the charge ports are located on most non-Tesla vehicles, when you pull in to use a Tesla Supercharger, because Tesla, you back into the Supercharger. So when you have to pull in forward, to make the cord reach, then you're parked in the space for the one that's next to you that you're charging on now. So it takes up an extra space.
It does, unless if they're all non-Teslas, then it's perfect.
Then it works. So, I mean...
But you have a Hummer EV, you're taking the correct one, which will be so funny to see. Because it's this giant monstrosity of a vehicle where there's typically small Teslas.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I mean, but
I can't wait.
As a Rivian owner, right, and somebody who has now driven a non-Tesla EV for almost a year now. We're coming up on a year. It is 100% never going to be my intention to block a Tesla from being able to get a charge at a Tesla Supercharger. I personally am going to do everything in my power to not take up a space that I don't need to be taking up.
Yeah.
And I mean, how do you think that's going to work? Like, I mean, if we pull up on installs, is that going to be the best thing to do? Like, I mean,
I think so.
The install and almost like parallel to this charging station, right? Like, so that you pull in like this, and then you would charge.
That's one way to do it.
Yeah.
And then the other way would be, if it's on the other end, you were thinking, this end, where the charger hooks into it. If you're on the other end, you just a space over, and it just has an open parking space.
Yeah. I'm a very
if
visual
it's available.
person. Yeah.
If it's available.
And so I think both people, Tesla drivers and non-Tesla drivers, are going to have to come together in this. And there's going to be growing pains in the beginning, but Tesla owners should try to take chargers within the center of the charger, and non-Tesla drivers should take them on the edges. And I understand that there's also other considerations. Like if you're at a Tesla Supercharger where it's an older version that splits the power, that's another thing that you have to consider.
And I don't know if they're adding that to those, but I guess I don't know.
Oh, yeah, because of the ones with the magic docks. That's true. I don't know. So that if somebody out there knows, let us know, because I'm not sure on that. We haven't seen them.
I don't think they have yet, but I don't know if they will.
Yeah, if they do in the future. I mean, it's all things to consider. That's exactly
right.
Yeah. Like, everybody's going to have to be considerate of each other. And if we start down the path of not being considerate of each other, then that's when the issues arise. And I do think there's going to be growing pains in the beginning. We're going to have to figure it out. And there's going to be people that have bought an EV, never watched a YouTube video about EVs, and they're going to have to learn. So the more kind we are to those people, when we talk to them about, hey, proper etiquette here is for you to use the end so that Teslas can use these appropriately, then that's going to get a much better result than people being rude.
We should do a video on that where it's like, the proper etiquette of that.
And we'll just go pretend. We'll take our little, like, J1772 adapter and be like, if this was a magic dock.
Yeah. That's the other side of it. I'm very interested why they went with this magic dock system rather than just selling all non-Tesla people a adapter. And I don't know, maybe that's in that Navi thing where it has to be in there.
It's
my
possible.
Assumption is.
I mean, maybe also like,
because I'd buy one immediately. I'd be testing it out.
I mean, could they also be eliminating the point of error of if third-party adapters become available, and then that ends up causing a charging issue, and so they don't want to deal with that. So
but Tesla already has one.
Yeah,
it's just
that's true.
In Europe, so.
Oh, that's true. In Europe.
So I don't know what.
Forget about Europe. Yeah.
Doing. I kind of have a feeling there's something behind that.
Maybe they think we're idiots in America.
Well, we are. So.
But I mean,
So that's interesting to me because
Yeah.
that could have been honestly an extra
It
business,
could.
like selling me a $300 adapter or
It could.
something.
You're right.
But this will be a lot easier, and
Yeah.
it's great that they're deploying it. I don't know how fast it's going to happen.
We'd love to see it out here.
Yeah, in the Midwest it'd be nice, but it goes back to potentially they're not putting it in version 2, and that's what a lot of the superchargers are around here. So
just for example, I mean, just to say, like, I gotta take my piece here. This is my time. It's my podcast. I get to talk about what I want to talk about here. So we are going to, if you've never watched our channel before, we tow an Airstream with our EVs. And so we are going out to the International Airstream Rally this summer that is in Rock Springs, I believe is the name of the town, Wyoming. Rock Springs, Wyoming. To go out on the CCS network, you have to stop at campgrounds. Like, there becomes a point where when you're towing a trailer, you cannot get any further on the CCS network without stopping to charge at campgrounds. So staying overnight at a campground, charging your vehicle, and moving on. If you plug in that you have a Tesla and you use the Tesla network to do the vehicle, you do not have to charge at campgrounds. There is enough Tesla Superchargers that you can make it from point A to point B on fast chargers only. Yeah. So it would be huge to have those open up for us. Places in the Midwest. For us. Yeah. But I mean, there definitely are more.
Only for us.
No,
that's all we care about.
Well, yes, only for us. But there's getting to be a lot more EV owners out here, and a lot of those people are CCS vehicles, and so because we are in Ford truck country, so what are people going to choose out here? They're going to choose the Ford Lightning, like it's that kind of a thing. So personally, I would love to see them take it to the places and say, okay, this is working here. Now, can we get it out in places where we can help bridge some gaps for other vehicles? They don't have to. Yeah. It doesn't affect them at all. But it would be really nice.
And they could be looking at it from a financial standpoint.
I'm sure
there's not much throughput rate.
Yeah.
At these chargers out here.
Yeah.
So
we're talking about chargers. When we go to our Tesla Supercharger here in town, like, we still get excited if there's a Tesla. We're like, hey, somebody's charging.
Yeah, it gets busy on the weekends.
It does.
When people are traveling more. And then sometimes we'll pull up there and there's 4 or 5. So,
yeah, but not full.
No.
I've never seen it full. So
never seen a cube before, anything like that.
Because we're that kind of nerds where we still go drive by a Tesla Supercharger even though we don't have
if that tells you anything about us, we don't really care too much about the brand. I have always been partial to Ford, but you saw how fast the Ford went away.
That might have been a little bit of happy wife, happy life.
Well, not necessarily.
Okay,
you could have traded the R1T for it. So
that's true.
It was just, anyways. So there's a little bit of brand loyalty for that aspect, which...
Again, we're Midwest. We are in the middle of truck country, so...
But I'm also excited about this GM Hummer EV. I'm also excited about the R1S that we have.
Yes.
All of that, so...
I just think there's so many good things happening, and we're just seeing such a diverse types of EVs coming to the market, which is so cool to see, because instead of having to have a little sedan, that's the only EV that there is, and the Model X is got so much space inside of it, but everybody else in the world is going to look at that as a sedan. They're not going to say that's an SUV, unless you know.
Accurate.
Unless you know. So to see a Rivian R1S that is clearly an SUV going down the road, and these trucks going down the road, it's so cool. And I do think that the Tesla Supercharger network is a huge piece of making all of them successful over the course of time.
Yeah.
So I'm super excited about it, and I think that people have to be really considerate of each other.
That's what's gonna have to happen.
It's multiplying our video of don't be a charging idiot.
Yeah.
It's multiplying that times 2 and saying look, it might be frustrating
Yeah.
because of, Tesla people are used to Tesla people coming in. And let's be honest, not every Tesla person charges perfectly either. We've had people pull up when we had a Tesla and we are in one of those spots that splits and like the whole charger's empty and they pull up right next to you and you're
Yeah.
like, are you kidding me? Like for real?
Yeah, but you just have a conversation
Yeah.
with them and talk to
You
them.
just talk to them about it.
Because they probably don't know.
Yeah, it is a shift. People think, oh, we should just be able to switch over
Yeah.
easily, but it is a shift, and there are things that you have to learn. And the more that people that have been doing it for a while can share in a kind manner, I think the easier it's going to be.
And we will be Tesla people again.
We will.
So thinking about that in a sense of being a Tesla person, you don't want to be known as like a BMW owner. Sorry, BMW owners, but
Yeah, no, you don't want to be a turd.
So go talk to them. Be the person that's going up to the person in the Ioniq 5 or the Bolt and explaining some stuff to them. Just be nice to them. That's the thing. So you can transform how Tesla owners are honestly viewed it overall. I think that people don't buy Teslas because of how some Tesla owners act, and that will be amplified if you are mean to people.
Just because
at the Supercharger. And I know some people are going to say, oh, you should be mean to them, blah, blah, blah. That's not how this world should work. We should be nice to each other.
Yes. Maybe that's the Midwest in us, but just be kind. But the other thing,
you get way further.
You do. You do get way further. And one of the things that I have loved from the get-go about EVs,
EVs in general,
is the community. Getting out and talking to people at the Supercharger. When you go to a gas station, it is like duking it out. Like nobody's being nice to each other. But when you go to a charger, people are talking to each other. Oh, how do you like your car? What do you love about it? What do you hate about it? Where have you gone in it? You're having these conversations with people. And I love that piece of it. And so I would hate for this to be the start of us like all duking it out like we do at gas stations where we don't care about each other at all, which I think is terrible. And I think, again, maybe this is the Midwest in me, but I'm just like, can't we all be kind to each other and always be looking out for each other and respectful of each other? And it's not the me show, it's the us show.
Yeah.
And for things to go well in the world, it has to be the us show.
Yeah. I
agree.
But and look at the other community we really enjoy, the RV community.
Yep. Same thing.
It's the same thing. They help each other out, and so
have conversations at the campground, walking around.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, your camper's so cool, or like. If you see somebody that is towing with something that you are curious about, you just literally walk into their campsite, which is their house.
Exactly.
And you're like, hey, how do you like your truck? And you start talking about it. So,
or if you're on the side of the road, they'll pull over and help you. Other RV owners. Well. So and we want to foster that in our community, and so that's one of the reasons we're trying to bring together the RV and EV community is because there are a lot of great aspects to both of them.
So I feel like
I hate to lose that.
Yes. So I feel like this is a good time to do a little plug here for us. Let's just call this the sponsor of the podcast. If you are interested in towing with your EV, then you should come out to the Charged Rally in October in Amana, Iowa. It is October 5th through the 8th of this year, 2023. And we had one last year and it was a blast.
So much fun.
Almost everyone that was there last year said they are coming back because it was such a blast. But it's a great time to connect with people who are interested in the same thing as you, learn about towing with an EV if you haven't done it yet, show off your setup if you're already doing it. This year we're working to get some guests to come speak. We did have Lightship RV come out last year, which they are announcing tomorrow. They're going to announce and show off their setup. So we're hoping that they will come back and talk to us again. But really cool event. So if you want to join us, we will leave a description in the podcast show notes about how you can get your camping spot for that. Or even if you can't camp, then you can just have a day pass and come join us.
Day pass, there's hotels there.
Yes,
They got,
adorable town.
yeah, and they have so much stuff to do around there.
Yes.
Wineries, they have the Renaissance Festival going on that
Yep.
time. If you have an EV, bring out your EV, or if you even have a cool car or
Yeah.
something, because we're gonna do
A cruise night.
a cruise night. There's gonna be a lot of fun stuff,
Yep.
and we just want to build that community. So come join us. We would love to have you.
Yes. All right, but back to
Okay. Are we done? We done with the supercharging network, or
I think so. I think we've gotten the major points across,
Yeah.
don't you? I mean, the stuff
I
that
mean, I could go on about
Exactly.
how this is going to benefit them. and,
Yes.
like revenue wise,
Yeah.
all that. So
I mean, I think you could put a general blanket statement over it's going to benefit Tesla and it's going to benefit other companies that
Yeah.
are putting out CCS vehicles.
I personally think that it's going to up the price of all electric vehicles once they're actually out there.
Yeah, because it's going to be
Yeah, because then now you
reliable.
don't have to buy a Tesla to get a reliable
Mm-hmm.
charging network. So,
It'll be
anyways,
interesting to see how it plays out, but
it'll be a while before that actually takes hold. So,
Yeah.
don't go buy vehicles to try to resell them later.
it'll be a while.
Not financial advice. I think that's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
The other thing about Tesla, not to continue with
Yep.
Tesla, there's a couple different things. They had an investor day.
Oh,
it
yeah,
wasn't
they did.
it wasn't really what a lot of people thought it was going to be. They thought they were gonna, release a new car, or they thought a bunch of different stuff. But it was really, I believe Elon put it this way, an investment in Earth, and he was talking about sustainability, and talking about how we need to move towards renewables and things like that, which I agree with him on that, me personally. And he talked about how it costs $10 trillion to do that, and how we spend that in a couple years just on oil and gas. And so it's very interesting. He's talking about how they're coming out with bigger battery packs and stuff like that for energy storage, which is going to help sustain the grid. And there's a bunch of different ways that you can do that. And so, in my eyes, and so it'll be very interesting. We got a podcast coming up that talks about some of that stuff with the power company, actually.
Yeah.
So that was super cool.
That podcast was really informative, and we did not get through half of what we wanted to, so we will probably have our guest Nick back on again, because really informative. And I mean, I think it's all interesting, and I think it's like there's so many components to it, right? Like, yes, there's this upfront cost, and there's upfront cost of resources, cost of money, cost of a whole bunch of things. But then once you get that in place, it's renewable, and you're going to be able to start reducing the cost and reducing the waste and see that shift change, which is, I think it's the point where we're at right now. We're kind of in the heat of it with EVs, right? Like right now, we're having to put the most money, the most resources, the most everything into making the switch to electric vehicles. And pretty soon, we're going to reach that tipping point where then it starts to become less resources, less money, less expensive to own an EV, like all of those things. It's already cheaper on your day-to-day basis to own an EV. Like flat out, it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Because of fuel and maintenance and all of those things. But, I think that's probably what Elon is talking about, I would assume, is like we've got to get to that point, and then it's going to be like, I don't want to say it's going to be like euphoria, but it's going to be so much better.
Well, with a lot of talk about how the rare earth metals, how we're having to mine those. One thing that you talked about was getting those rare earth metals out of the motors that they have. So, and I think it was the next day, the stocks of those rare earth metals went down, just from what I observed. And so it's very interesting that, just even the talk of that, decreases people's confidence in those. And so what that tells me is that people believe that that can happen. You know, people that are smarter than I am, that have way more money than I do,
Yeah.
you know, believe that that can happen. And so
The
it'll,
recycling of those materials is what you're talking about.
no, getting
No.
them out of the motors altogether.
When you said get them out of the motors, I thought you meant like extracting them back out, but you're
No,
saying
like
not
when
using
they
them at
produce
all.
them,
Got
not
it.
having them.
Okay.
So, at least that's how I heard it. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe that is correct. But, anyways, so doing that would be, you know, huge
Yeah.
when you're talking about that. So,
Yep.
it, like I said earlier, I believe Elon said it is an investment in Earth
Yeah.
and sustainability, and so that's always going to be a huge talking point to especially electric vehicle owners.
Yeah.
People forget that everybody has a cell phone, and all that junk is in those cell phones as well. So, you know,
In your laptop.
don't just think that, you know, it's only EV owners that are, you know, causing these issues in other countries. And, you know, it's unfortunately all of us.
Well, and it's just like,
Anyways.
yeah, it is all of us, and it's just like that, you know, it's just like RV parks. People are blaming EVs for RV parks charging for energy and saying, you know, like shutting down RV parks because of the charging. But the truth of it is that we're now to where almost all RVs have two ACs, if not three now. Like there's just more components in an RV that's taking more energy and stuff. We've just been in this cycle of more and more and more and more and more for so long. But that's a whole nother rabbit hole.
It is very much.
So, but I want to go back to, because you were talking about having larger battery packs in EVs to help sustain the grid and whatnot.
Well, it wasn't in EVs, it was just storage.
Storage.
Yeah,
But it could be an
packs.
EV. So,
Transition,
Rivian.
sorry.
It is. You're ruining my transition here.
I had other Tesla stuff to talk about.
Oh, do you still want to talk about that?
Mm-mm.
Okay, well, so this past week also, Rivian announced that they are going to be launching a Max Pack R1S. So the SUV is going to have a Max Pack.
Yeah.
So 390 miles of
Yeah, it
range?
was 390, which is kind of interesting because it's like 70 extra miles than the large pack.
Yeah.
And I don't know how big. I think it's 175 kilowatt hours. Do you
I would say
remember
185.
that? 185? Okay, that's it. I think that actually. And it's
guys,
going to be on their
Mark that down, but I knew it and he didn't.
Endura
Yes.
drive, their dual motor. And so according to RJ Scaringe, who is the CEO of Rivian, he said that they're going to be able to keep the third row, which is the only reason we bought that.
Yep.
And I think the only reason a lot of people will. The only reason I call it the Escalade killer, I'm throwing this out there, I want to put it on everything, but
He's
it
holding
doesn't
back.
sound as good as I thought when my wife said it. So if it is the Escalade killer, let me know.
It could be. I do love it a lot. But
so what do you think of that?
Yeah.
Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Like what?
I think we're still in such a part of this changing to EVs and figuring out what is the best and what's not. Do I think that we need giant battery packs on most EVs? Probably not. And this is coming from someone that tows with their EV, right? Like, we have still been able to make it to every destination that we want to make it to. It might not be ideal, like how we got there. We might have to charge on a slower charger than we wanted to, but we can always get someplace. And so for how often I would be using the Max Pack portion of the vehicle, I personally don't think it's worth the additional amount of money that I would have to pay for the vehicle
in resources
because I can make the lesser pack work, the large pack work for what I need. It might be slightly annoying on some road trips, but again, we travel a lot, and I still don't think it would impact my life to have to charge a little bit longer on those trips or charge more often. Not enough to buy the Max Pack.
For me, no, I don't. I
Yeah.
don't think it's worth it, to be honest.
Yeah.
For the resources, for the extra expense, all that stuff. I think it'll help a lot of people transition because the
Yeah.
more miles you see, oh, the better it is.
Yeah. And there's
It's
a lot.
not how I think.
Yeah.
The other side of it is they haven't really said anything about this. There's some grumbling that potentially could be an 800-volt system, which if that is the case, then I'm really going to want to try that. And so
We're swapping our R1S out for the Max
I
Pack.
think that is very intriguing. And that it is also intriguing, the dual motor. Like
Yeah.
it's got quite a bit of horsepower, and I think the 0 to 60s, it'll be a little bit slower than the quad, but not much.
He said it in his little Instagram
It's like
post.
3 point something still.
So if you're curious, if you want the exact numbers, go on RJ's Instagram, and he has a little video where he announces it.
But he didn't say anything about the volts on the battery.
No, he didn't say anything about the volt, but he did say the like 0 to 60 and the dual motor and the third row and all of that stuff. It's all on there.
I think it'll be, compelling, and it'll help some people get into electric vehicles. I think we will get to a point where it's not worth it.
Yeah. Well, I think people will realize that you just don't need that big of a battery pack. But there are a lot of people that are still holding out for their Max Pack R1Ts, and so, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to like that Max Pack R1S, like I've already had somebody texting me, asking me questions about the R1S, and, they're going to go to Colorado and they want to know how much longer is it going to take for them to charge versus going in just traditional from Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
So,
that'd be a great road trip.
It would be a great road trip. I know. Well, and I said, and the advice that I gave to them is I said, it depends on how you travel, right? And for us, we went on a trip with someone in a gas-powered truck, and we were in our R1T, and they left before us, and we arrived at the same time because they were traveling differently than us. They stopped and smelled the roses along the way. Yeah. That's the way they wanted to do it. So they got there at the same time as us, even with us having to charge and all that kind of stuff. And I don't even think it was like perfectly smooth sailing either, like with charging. I don't remember.
No, is it ever?
I know, right? Is it ever?
CCS,
No.
public?
So, again, it just kind of depends on how you're going to use the vehicle, how you want to drive. If the thought of stopping annoys you to no end, which it did to us before we did it, and then we were like, it's not so bad. So I urge you to try it before you, spend the extra whatever amount of money to go get the Max Pack, because it really ends up not being that bad. No. But that's for us and our, that's definitely our opinion on it. Mm-hmm. But that being said, we're also on our 5th EV now. So we've got some miles under our belt in an EV. So I think personally it's not going to be worth it. Some considerations would be if there was going to be some sort of way in the future that all cars can put power back into your home. You might be worth it.
They did release that's going to be a thing with the Rivian.
Is it?
Just through a software update.
Oh, nice.
So, okay. Well, maybe that's for people that need that.
Yeah. People that live in areas where maybe you get the blackouts and
I could see that. Okay.
So you have a giant battery pack to run your house off of.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, and the other pieces in areas where you do get blackouts and stuff like that.
Cold climates.
Yeah.
There's a use case for it. Because you can add, depending upon how cold it is, it can be a 30-40% drop in range. So. And
that being said, again, we do live in Nebraska, so we do deal with cold weather.
Yeah.
And we still make it like it's fine. We never have had an issue.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but.
Still drove back on a 90% charge from Kansas City without stopping. So, which is rough.
In an ice storm, like it was cold.
180 miles.
Yeah.
So.
It was cold.
There was drop in range.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah, you pulled in. Like, I would not have been able to make that trip. He's like 20 miles away from home and the battery's like empty.
It wasn't empty.
I know, but that's what the little icon looked like.
Why are you looking at the icon? Just look at the numbers. It worked.
It did work. You did get here. So that's what we can say about that. Okay, is there anything, what else are we going to cover? Oh, we were going to talk about the Tesla and their silly prices all over the place again, but I don't know. We don't need to necessarily go there if we have more compelling. Are we done talking about the Max Pack? I don't know.
I think so. I don't know that there's necessarily anything else. We could talk about how the then number one Hummer EV SUV came back on the market for sale.
Oh, it did.
Yeah,
Oh,
$500,000.
oh my gosh. Oh
The
my gosh.
person said that they would accept a reasonable offer. This person bought it, which is super awesome for through an auction for millions of dollars. I can't remember how much. It was a crazy amount of money. And then that was all donated to that organization.
Oh, that's nice.
What was it?
I
The
don't know because I didn't
organization?
even hear
Something
it.
Trails, like the
Oh, the Tread Lightly.
Tread Lightly. Yeah, sorry. They help with revitalizing trails and
Maintaining them.
yeah.
Education to make sure that people know how to go out and
Hmm.
use our national parks or our off-road trails and
Yeah.
stuff like that without destroying them.
Yeah, so they donated that, and then that person put it back on the market for sale for like $500,000. So it's a super cool
Yeah.
thing. I would love to, do that, but that would be bananas.
Yeah, no, you're not buying. We already on the list for one. That's like what in the first, I don't know how many they have on the road now, but yeah, no.
Well, it's an SUV. That's VIN
Oh.
one.
Oh, I didn't know that was the SUV either.
That's what I said.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. Sorry. Selective hearing, right? That's what happens when you've been married for as long as we've been married.
So, anyways, so that came back on the market for
That
sale.
is cool. I do like the story of them donating it originally.
Yeah,
to
it's
Tread Lightly.
awesome.
Yeah,
So,
that's
I
fun.
enjoy that.
Yeah, and it's fun to be at the beginning and the start of all of these things and see these vehicles come on and see which ones are gonna make it and see which ones are not and all of that stuff. It's you think back and I don't ever remember a time when there's as many new car companies and new concepts and new ideas coming to the market. So it's fun to like see all of them. Um, I think it's amazing. Like people probably don't realize, like some people that don't pay attention to cars whatsoever have no idea like how much is going on around them. It was like the other night when we were sitting at dinner and somebody came up in a what was it? Was it an EV6? What was it? I don't know. There was an
I don't
EV
remember.
that pulled up and we were there in our EV and it's like you think about just a few years ago when we would have been lucky to see a Tesla,
Hmm.
and so it's fun to watch all of this stuff go
Yeah.
down and be a part of it. Vinfast delivered their first
Did
round
they?
of cars here in the U.S., so
I
that will be
didn't know
interesting
that.
to see how that goes. Yeah, it's like I want to say like 30 or 45 vehicles they delivered. So, um,
Yeah, that'll
as
be interesting to see that. There's a lot of people that really want those vehicles.
yeah, and also a lot of people that are like heeding caution on those
Yeah,
vehicles. So it'll be interesting to see.
I don't want to say much about them
No,
because I don't really.
don't know a whole lot.
But the one that we test drove was needed some work
Yeah, yeah,
in my eyes. But I, you know, I don't know.
yeah. I mean, the space and stuff was good. I think that the vehicle itself, the space, it's good.
The cat scratches.
Yes, the cat scratch back. Yeah, cat
Massager.
paws. It was cat
Cat
paws.
paws. Okay.
Massaging seats and stuff. There was a lot of good things about it,
Yeah.
but
You can tell is early.
yes.
I don't even know if those are production vehicles, but
I don't know. I don't know.
I hope they weren't.
Yeah, but yeah. Again, but a car company, new car company coming and
Well, it's
taking on-
new to the U.S.
Yeah, new to the U.S. Yes, I
yeah,
should say.
They have. I can't remember where they're at, but
Vietnam.
whatever. Vietnam. Yeah. So, what else? Anything, or are we done here?
Um, I don't know. We could go back to the Tesla Superchargers because I feel like we could go on and on forever about that, but we don't need to ramble
Yeah, the
on.
other two things we are going to talk about was Model S and X reducing $10,000.
Yes.
And the other thing I
Was
was
it
going
the
to
S
talk
and the X, or was it the X just down to...
No,
Oh,
both.
both. Good.
And the other thing was they started delivering hardware for their full self-driving or autopilot. And so that is full self-driving 2, I think is what some people are calling it. Maybe they call it that. That's got the new Phoenix hardware is what they call it. It's got better cameras, better not software, hardware in it. And so it's got the radar back, which they took it out, now they're putting it back.
Learning process, like I said.
Yeah, I don't know. But you can't retrofit the old one, so it'll be super interesting. I don't know if they're going to use these as like the learning aspect for their Dojo computer, which is their AI computer, and then they'll shove the software to those other ones, or that's my theory. Do not repeat that. But that's my thought, is that they are going to use this to try to help the past ones. But I could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
I don't really follow the full self-driving close. If you would
so
like
he doesn't
me
feel
to,
depressed because he doesn't have it anymore.
exactly.
That's why he doesn't.
If you would like me to, I can make it happen.
But then I'm going to end up with a Tesla in my driveway.
Yeah, just like a Model 3 with some hardware 3 in it,
Yeah, you guys, it would happen like in a heartbeat. He would
Yeah,
be like, oh, but the YouTube people want me to. The podcast
And nobody
people
would care.
want me
I'd have to get you to do something with it to actually care about it.
Oh, hey, you know that I'm always up for talking about cars. So
Yeah, so.
But I mean, yeah, that's interesting that it can't be in the old ones though.
Can't retrofit
Yeah,
hardware for. But that's how some of the old ones are. You can't retrofit the hardware 3 into it that is needed for full self-driving beta.
Is that why some of the Tesla owners are grumpy and don't want people to take their superchargers?
Could be. I mean, to be honest, there's been I feel like been sold this thing of full self-driving, and if you really looked at it as a whole, you knew it wasn't going to happen as quickly as they said and as easily as they said, because it made it sound like it was this easy problem to solve, and it's not that easy to solve.
No,
it's very difficult. And I'm a person that knows nothing about software as far as that goes, but anyways,
everybody wants it to happen fast, but it is a complex piece of
think
technology
about it when you're
create.
driving around, how many times you're looking around doing all this stuff. But you can also see how it could be a lot better at driving, and they did release their crash reports on full self-driving.
That's another thing we could have.
And there's a lot of people that are skeptical about it because it was greatly reduced from a human driver. But I've used full self-driving beta, and as long as you're paying attention, it is amazing. It is awesome. And I love doing that.
Yeah. And if it would do something weird, if you gave it the time to correct itself, a lot of the times it would before you got into it, there was a major incident. Most of the time you're taking over before it, so you can't say it's always going to correct itself. But, in that moment you're like, oh gosh, it's not going to do it. But then you think back and you're like, actually it was coming back to fix itself. And I mean, it has saved me from running into the back of somebody before, I mean, it's there is so much that I think that once it is, and we just have to be patient to let the technology get there, because it is a huge task to get all of the pieces and parts working together. But once it does, it can do so much more than the human brain can, because it can be watching behind you, beside you, in front of you, everywhere, and preventing you from getting into accidents. Because it can simultaneously know, okay, somebody's going to run into me. There's enough space for me to go over here. There's nobody else coming over here, where we cannot process all of that information at once, where it could. So, it's a huge piece of technology that has to get put together. But, I think I think they're doing a great job so far of just
Yeah.
inching it forward, which is what's going to have to happen.
I would critique them a little bit on the side of like selling people these
Yeah.
packages.
Yes.
And making it feel like it's going to be out real soon.
Yeah, that is.
I feel like
yeah.
they kind of had to do this full self-driving beta, like give people a little bit of taste of it.
Mhm.
So that's my view on it. That is,
Yeah.
you know, in order to justify, I think it's up to $14,000 or $16,000 for this full self-driving, and you pay for it, but you don't.
Yeah.
Really
You don't really get it.
You have to pay attention. You have to. And there's a whole psychological thing about that, like that people are upset about, and I understand what they're upset about, but also you're a consumer, be smart. Like don't
Well,
just. And so with that being said, like as you drive with that full self-driving beta more, people talk about how you pay attention less. Which there may be some aspect to that that is true, but you, for me anyways, I was always alert and paying attention because it was, you know, on the highway, I would say maybe less attentive because it really never acted
great
up.
job, yeah.
Yeah, so I did have a lot more.
Maybe, but that was really the only thing.
Yeah, but with phantom braking, I guess. There's been some incidents where it's really phantom braked and I think somebody rear-ended. But that's like one incident. And there's always, you know, one thing that happens that gets more media press than the other.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Always.
But anyways.
Always. So one last closing argument or piece on that is, you know, the people that are buying the packages or whatnot. I mean, I think maybe you almost have to think of it as a donation to the science of figuring it out. You know, like because that's why it's costing so much is because the science of figuring it out is costing so much. So it's just your donation to make it work.
Well, that's how I view the EV purchasing in the beginning because like we were talking about how once resources and you know, scale catches up, the cost of these EVs will come down. You know, so in the beginning, we're paying a lot for these vehicles, and it's with the technology side to help bring the cost of, you know, the bare minimum of an electric vehicle, bring that cost down. But they are putting a lot of technology in them that costs a lot of money, but I believe that's how you're getting people to purchase them is because they have all this technology and, you know, but it's also bringing the cost of the motors down. It's bringing the cost of the batteries down. So in the end, you know, when they can actually build the bare minimum electric vehicle, the cost is going to be way cheaper than it would have been, you know, 4 or 5 years ago.
I think that could be a whole topic because I have a whole bunch of things popping into my head. So maybe we'll save that topic, the cost of EVs, for the next one that we do. Our next podcast will be Nick, though. So be sure to tune in for that one because that one's mindful of information coming your way. So, but we really appreciate you joining us. If you know someone that you think would enjoy this podcast, be sure to share it with them.
Please do.
Follow us, you know, click that follow button, the subscribe button if you're on YouTube. Leave us any comments or questions you have or any topics you'd love to see us to cover on one of these podcasts because we love to talk.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. Find all of our show notes at allelectricfamily.com/allelectricconversations. Be sure to connect with us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at All Electric Family. Find us on Twitter as All Electric Fam. You can find our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed this story, please be sure to share it and hit that subscribe button. Leave a review and help inspire others to hit the road. Until next time, stay charged.